Oil palms must grow for at least 3 years before the lucrative oil can be pressed out of them. Indonesian palm oil is the cheapest in the world. International investors have been the driving force behind the massive growth of Indonesia's palm oil production. Large parts of the Indonesian island of Sumatra are already covered by oil palm plantations. In recent years, annual exports have skyrocketed. In 2007, they reached almost 20 million tons of palm oil per year, and that figure keeps rising fast. The plantations cover more than 6 million hectares of land. That's twice the size of Belgium. While governments around the world discuss the problem of climate change, and the Indonesian government promises to stop the destruction of the rainforest, here on Sumatra, thousands of hectares of forest are chopped down every day. It's an environmental disaster that scientists believe is irreversible. Once the trees are gone, the damp peat of the forest floor is exposed to the sun, and the fertile ground dries out, releasing huge amounts of greenhouse gases previously stored in the ground. Oil palm monocultures don't help prevent climate change. Against the advice of many scientists, monocultures are still being planted on the valuable forest floor that remains. Since palm oil has become a popular source of energy, its demand has been growing even faster.
I am so unhappy about these gigantic new oil palm plantations. Our forest in which we, the orang rimba, have gathered fruit, which has sustained us, has completely disappeared. There are plantations everywhere. I ask you, how are we supposed to survive when there is no forest anymore?
This is Din Perulak and his clan back in 2001. Then the forest surrounding the Bukit Dua Blas National Park was still their home. At the end of the 1980s, 3,000 Orang Rimba families lived in the forest of central Sumatra. They called themselves the children of the forest. The forest is like a father and a mother to them. They firmly believe to be destined by the gods to live in the forest. They believe the spirits have given them the knowledge that enables them to survive in the heart of the forest and to live from the fruits it provides. As their natural habitat began to shrink, they were no longer able to sustain themselves from the forest. They began making baskets weaved with rattan. They began swapping them for food. They would never dare to chop down a single tree, because they believe that if they harm nature, they will call upon themselves the wrath of the gods.
Sometimes the spirits are evil, and they enter the souls of our children. Then these children disappear or they become very sick. That's what happens when you destroy the forest. It's the big companies who are behind all this. We know who they are. I believe it is Sinamas.
Yes, I know Sinamas. It's mainly them, and Payang and Patan work for them. First they log the forest, and then they sell the timber, and then they prepare the ground and plant their palm plantations.
Itu yang menghancurkannya itu. Jadi setelah kayu habis, digarap, dibikinkan sawit.
Since the start of the new millennium, they've had to witness an alarming increase in the pace at which their forest is being destructed. At first, they were still able to take shelter under the green roof of the forest. The first loggers were landless farmers who had no choice but to make a living by selling wood after the palm oil companies took away their land. As the sound of the chainsaws drew closer, the traditional way of life of the Orang Rimba was ruined. Din has been forced to stand by and watch, while the world's demand for palm oil has forever ruined his home.
We can't work here. We just can't. This is the land where our ancestors live. We would lose our souls if we were to start working on this land. It's forbidden for us to do so. And anyway, we don't have the physical strength.
Because of the vast use of herbicides, only few locals are needed on the plantations. Many of these herbicides are extremely dangerous. The most widely used herbicide in Indonesia, paraquat, is also the most lethal. It is estimated to have killed more than 1 million people worldwide. Even the smallest dosage can cause serious burns. Inhaling it can lead to lung cancer. Ingesting it is fatal. In the US and in Europe, paraquat has been banned. But in Indonesia, the Swiss biotech giant Syngenta is still able to sell it. It ends up not only on crops, but also in the groundwater. None of this has stopped Syngenta from being a member of the Round Table for Sustainable Palm Oil Production, an organization that tries to give an ecological seal of approval to large-scale oil palm plantations. The palm oil industry shows a complete disregard for the well-being of its workers and the people who live around it, not only through its use of toxic herbicides, but also the excessive use of fertilizers. These phosphates end up in rivers and lakes. They contain heavy metals which are harmful to man and the environment. The same is true for nitrates. The groundwater here is so salty that no other fruit can grow on this land. All of this is well known to the Indonesian palm oil companies, but they still aim to win over the European energy market by selling their palm oil with an ecological seal of approval. Their business strategy is simple: to increase production as fast as possible with the help of herbicides and fertilizers, and to pay their workers as little as possible. The oil palm nuts must be pressed and processed within 24 hours or else they rot. Sinar Mas, with its company headquarters in Singapore, is the largest producer of palm oil in Indonesia. Its financial backers are spread around the world, and they include well-known European banks such as the Banque Nationale de Paris and Deutsche Bank. Sinar Mas also owns the oil presses. The farmers have no means of transport. The price of raw goods is dictated by the company. For the oil to stay runny, it must be constantly heated. More than 90% of palm oil is destined for the international market. The palm oil dealers are in Europe. It is a sought-after raw material, as it is one of the most popular vegetable oils on the market. As the raw ingredient for margarine, it is an important contributor to our daily diet. Compared to sunflower, maize and rapeseed oil, Indonesian palm oil is very cheap. Millions of people around the world rely on it. But consumers have a choice whether to buy vegetable oil produced locally or cheap margarine from the